charge and then spin around, try and kick you.
So we got to maintain this distance so we have time to respond. Now you see how he's having a blowout and a letdown? Because he's turning loose to accepting the human being the leader on the circle now. Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm here with Jenny, and we're going to be working with the horse behind us here. And you're having some issues with him being a bit dominant.
Yeah.
And can you just tell us a little bit about that and why you asked me to come out today?
Yep. So he, when circling or working, asking to do something, he'll kind of turn, charge, and then spin around, try and kick you. It's not all the time, but it's just been happening more when we're asking a little bit more from him now.
Yeah, like you were telling me earlier, like if you ask him to canter, do some harder work when you're lunging him. But is he okay at like feeding time and things like that?
Feeding time, I usually bring him down separately. We don't do it up there, but he seems fine with humans. He will boss some of the other horses around and get bossed by some of the other horses. So he's kind of mid-pecking order there. Okay.
And then has it become to an issue where you've gotten hurt from him?
Yeah, he's thrown a fit when he wants to graze and I'm leading him, where he'll cow hop. He has twisted his butt and kicked me in the thigh, and recently when I was working on the ground with him and was drawing him towards me, wanted him to come faster, swung the stick around, he turned into the charge twist kick and got me in the hand and the leg as well.
Oh wow. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm glad you reached out. Are you scared to work with him on the ground?
Yeah, I think we've gotten to the point where like it's gotten a little bit better over the few weeks, but if he starts showing the arching and displaying like he's gonna do the turn kick, I do have fear inside me where we are being productive working together right now, because obviously he can sense that.
And so what happens if we can't fix this, if I can't help you get over this, what do you think happens after that?
I don't know. My husband does want me to sell him. Other people have mentioned selling them, but if I sell him like this, I don't want to.
Yeah, not a very optimistic future
No,
for him.
no.
You were also telling me that he's been bounced around quite a bit.
Yeah, I was his fourth owner in his first 5 years of life. So,
did you know about any of these issues when you bought him?
No. The guy I bought him from just said that his wife wasn't connecting with him, and so they had to get rid of one horse. They had too many horses, and they chose him.
All right. Well, let's get started with him and see what we can do. So if you guys haven't heard of the Patreon page, it's where I have my whole horsemanship program. We post a new video there every Wednesday. And once a month, I do a fun monthly challenge. And we do giveaways at the end of that for whoever participates. And you can ask me questions on there. So if you're not on there, make sure you get yourself on there. And we'll leave a link in the description below. I'm going to have to put a little pressure on him to motivate him to move out of the way and see me as the leader. But on the other hand, I really want to set it up in a way where he's choosing to step off the pressure and get relief and then leave him alone from there. What happens a lot of times is that when we have to get bigger with a horse and put more pressure on, people have to really get their emotions up to do that, and that's not good. We don't want to have to do that. You need to be able to be very assertive with a horse with no emotion attached to it, because when horses are being dominant with each other, there's no emotion in that. And horses will read, you kind of are giving up your leadership card if you get emotional when you're working with them. So you have to be able to get bigger and then immediately smile and relax, and it's no big deal. Which also is to say that once he steps off the pressure, I don't want to keep going after him. It's not about like a punishment. It's about kind of a negative reinforcement if he doesn't get out of the way. So he has to have a choice. And part of what I think will work well with him based on other horses I've worked with, we haven't started yet, but is I'm going to put pressure on a line. So even if he's on a circle and I'm kind of lunging him, when I step out to put pressure on, it's on a spot. I'm going to a spot, not him. It's his choice to get off that spot or not. If he's still there, I'm going to touch him. If he gets out of the way, the pressure's never going to touch him. That's his choice. Does that make sense? Versus if I turn and I go after him while he's doing it, that is going to feel aggressive to him. And so I don't want to feel aggressive, but I want to feel assertive. I want him to be convinced that I'm the alpha horse without creating any unnecessary fighting issues with him. I don't want him to think I'm trying to pick a fight with him. I want him to just understand he needs to step off pressure and not come after us if he gets bothered by that. Now there he stepped off of it. So now I'm saying this is my spot. So the goal now is when I approach the spot is for him to drift off out of the way. But it's important to give them some process time. Now he's eating grass right like instantly, so he's definitely not too bothered by that. But I still think it's important to give them time to process and not I don't want him to think it's just going, because like I just said this was my spot. He's still kind of checking in a little bit here and there. But he's pretty committed to it. Usually this is a lot easier at Liberty because they can just run over there. So it's interesting to me how committed he is to standing there and wearing the pressure, which is probably likely that a lot of people have tried to get him to move and had it not work out. And so he's pretty certain that if he just holds his ground that it'll work out for him. But now he's looking at me with attention. Now I also think what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to move to a different location, and he has a choice. He can either keep facing me and I won't go towards him, because his first response was to put his butt towards me and kick out. And so instead of going very confrontationally at his front end, I'm going to move positions and go towards his hindquarters. And I think that'll be and so he has a choice now. He can follow me and stay connected, and that's a good sign. As long as he doesn't pin his ears back as we do it. But that would be a level of improvement over him just doing it. But he still has to be able to step off the pressure. Now I'm not going to let him in any closer than the stick. So I like that me just waving the stick, he backed off of that. And so I'm saying I didn't invite you in. Normally when we're doing this at Liberty, we want him to draw in, but we do not want this horse to draw in until we trust him more. Now, I feel like he's approaching me with a bit of curiosity, and then he stopped right there, which is roughly far enough away. But again, this is different. Normally at Liberty, I'd want him to follow me, but we don't trust him enough to follow me. And so I don't like to teach a horse Liberty and draw until they have enough responsibility to stay out of the human's bubble. Which for me, when I'm working with a lot of like more dangerous horses, that's to the end of the stick around me. So that's my bubble right there. And that's what I'm saying to him. Eventually, with my standard bubble, personal space bubble for horses that are not trying to bite or kick or anything like that, is going to be to the end of my arm. Meaning I don't let them come any closer than that to me unless I either invite them in and I'm giving them a cue to say, hey, I want you to come in, or I go into their space. So that was much better response. I'm also happy with the amount of pressure. Some people are going to think I put too much pressure on him. I think I put just enough of pressure because he went from there to here and ate grass, which means he was not very bothered. If he went screaming around the pen or tried to jump out, that'd been, oh, okay, Ryan put way too much pressure on that horse. And I try to be very accurate with how much pressure I put on them. And it was a lot. I'm not saying it wasn't a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure. But for him, it was the right amount. And this is the part that a lot of people don't see or understand, is that if he had had the correct approach from the beginning, we wouldn't have to go to that point. If he would have learned to step off pressure as a weanling and a yearling and get started correctly and all that, these issues wouldn't really be here. The longer we teach them to wear it, the harder it is to then recover. So I end up having to put more pressure on horses that have learned bad behaviors than I would a horse that didn't learn to do those bad behaviors in the first place. Does that make sense? So he's staying connected with me, but you can see he's now moving off that line pretty good. I think now what I'm going to do is see if I can approach him and pet him. And I want him to read. This is another lesson that I teach very frequently on here and on Patreon, is energy versus intention. So I'm going to walk towards him now with energy, but my intention is going to be very low. So I'm trying to be more friendly now. Before, when I walked to him, I was kind of marching and I pointed my eyes and belly button at him, and that's more pressure. Now I'm going to turn my eyes and belly button away from him, and I'm going to weave in and out. Then I'll offer him a chance to connect with me here. And if he doesn't want to touch me, then I don't need to touch him either. That means he would rather me not do that. And also, I hope the people watching that think I put too much pressure on him, there's a lick and chew, so he just decompressed a little bit. I want you to see too that he was not afraid of me when I switched my approach, when I changed my intention. Becoming the leader to the horse is a very positive thing for the horse, because we're letting him know, hey, you don't have to be responsible for spooking at things on the trail. That's our job as the herd leader. We get to take off a lot of responsibilities off their plate, and they can learn to feel very comfortable with us. But setting up that situation to become the leader then puts a lot of responsibility on us and how we set it up, how we do it, how we put pressure on them, what scenarios, what games we choose to do when. All those things start to add up and matter a lot. So I think we're going to go ahead and halter him now. And then the secret is I'm going to touch whatever's sticking out. So I'm going to wave the stick. It's his choice if he wants to run into it or not. The mistake that a lot of people make when they do this is they move the stick like this. And they make sure to avoid the horse. And you can't do that. You have to be willing to set those boundaries, otherwise the horse is going to eat your lunch. You don't have to do it hard, but you have to be willing to just move the stick on a line and say, this is my space, and show that clearly. Can you see how responsive he is to everything already? So we kind of fixed it out in the round pen is what it boils down to. That's why I say it could go very well in here, because I've already established myself as the leader. The part that'll actually be more challenging with him is as you get into more yields, to try to go from being, like right now, I'm like 51% the leader. So I leveled up very quickly just from holding my ground in there and signing him up in there, where I interrupted his grass eating time, okay? So that means I didn't have to ask him to canter, I didn't have to do something else. But when you get into those yields, the principles of what I'm teaching in here all apply to that. So like, for instance, if you ask him to canter on a circle and he doesn't go, you're going to step out to the spot and put pressure on the spot. You can't be chasing him to get him to go, right? So if you have to tag him and put pressure, that's fine, but then you reset and then you set it up again. Versus like, we're just going to keep going until you do it. That's what would really feel aggressive to him, because he's operating in a different mindset. When he's being dominant over you and wanting to eat grass, he's staying in a mental state that we call automatic in behavior. And that's based from a book called Evidence-Based Horsemanship that Martin Black and a veterinarian put together. And so in that mindset, that's where they care about eating grass, sleeping, drinking, who's dominant in the herd, okay? The next level up from that is curious. After I put pressure on him, he got curious about me, and that's why he was facing me wherever I went, okay? The next level above that is concerned, which is kind of where he's at now. He's like, now he's thinking he's got to be more, because he's more sensitive. He's in a different mental state. And this is a natural process. As he gets more comfortable with everything that I'm asking him to do, he'll come back down again, but be in a better frame of mind there. So I'm going to walk on this line. So I like that he's backing up. And you can see he stepped off that line very, very easily. I'm still going to continue walking on this line. If you are not able to be assertive, you're going to end up going like this. And you'll end up avoiding the horse and going around them. That's a really classic mistake that a lot of people that have trouble becoming assertive have. People that are a little bit timid or not as self-confident. And so that's really important to be able to bring your life up, put your shoulders back, head up, and march towards him on that line and stay on that line. The other thing that people tend to do as a mistake for this is they move their feet fast. I'm not trying to crowd him and put pressure on him quickly like I did in the round pen. I'm trying to give him a lot of choice here. This is a little more about a conversation of him learning. When the human brings their life up and walks on this line, he needs to step off. And so this is way more of a specific yield than circling him, okay? Circling him feels like a lot of work to him, but once he's on the circle, he's kind of already did the yield, and now he's got a lot of time to make plans to do other things. Where this, I'm just asking him to move off the line, so it's a very direct dominance game every time. So it's your turn. I'm gonna stay by you. And stop. Good, I like how you did that with some energy, yeah. Wave that stick, very good. I'll stay out of your space too, I see you're not messing around. She's serious about this. Very good. So once he's there, you can't reach him, there's no horse that you can touch, he wins the game. And then he's very comfortable back there. He's got his leg cocked, he's chilling. That's great, because he needs to understand that as long as he's here, everything's good. We're respectful space, there's no issues happening, right? Go for a walk again somewhere. And stop. Wave your stick. Now, while you're doing that, I want you to take one big step backwards. Now wave it again. Very good. I love that you were willing to touch him. I don't like that you had to touch him, but I like that you were willing to, because you have to be able to be assertive enough to be safe around him. And your safety is the most important thing. So you notice we're doing this slowly too. It's part of it, we're having a conversation, but the other part of it is we need to give him time to process. You can see he's staying way back there, which is great. He's getting a healthy respect for that. Let's go ahead and turn and pick a line straight through him again. Actually, can you get where you can see that barrel? The barrel's in between, he's in between you and the barrel? Okay. Because I want you to focus, it's more important that you focus on a target past the horse than on the horse. Like, I don't even want you to look at him. You notice him out of your peripheral, but your focus is not on him, because they feel that. And like if I stare at you like this, like that feels weird and aggressive, and but if I'm like looking over here, I'm still looking right in your direction, but I'm not focused on you. That feels less threatening. That's how they feel too. And they are more sensitive and aware of this than we are. So we're aware of it and sensitive to it, like people's moods and just we're reading their body language, their tone of voice, their energy, that sort of thing. Horses are wired to really pay attention to this because it's a survival thing. They got to tell if the predator is hungry or if it's just laying there. They can't be on guard all the time, 24/7. They have to be able to let down at times. So they have to read the situation, the environment. Okay, pick your target. Walk your feet slowly, but wave the stick quickly. Slower feet, smaller steps. Yes, very good. Now I'm going to switch to a 4/4 yield. Same thing, high quality response. Now that one he got a little uncomfortable with. That's why he had to lick and chew afterwards. And then the nostrils flaring is him getting a little uncomfortable, which basically means he doesn't fully understand pressure. He's probably had some inconsistencies in his training. And so the more you're clear about changing your intention and bringing your energy back down every time he's doing it well, that becomes then clear to him. Like, how does he know when I want to just come pet him with the stick versus back up right there? Because I just turned and went towards him with the stick up in the air, where a minute ago that meant run away, right? So he read my intention there, but I'm very deliberate about changing my intention every time. Now you see how he's having a blowout and a letdown? Because he's turning loose to accepting the human being the leader on the circle now. So we got to maintain this distance so we have time to respond. So now I'm going to ask him to step his front end over again, but watch, my focus is going to go in on him more. I'm going to circle this. And I was just about to touch him, and then he made a good decision and stepped off of it. It's about building this connection and this understanding between you and him of what your idea is, and him understanding that he can yield to pressure. So I'm going to do that one again because he stepped back. Did you notice that? So this is the same idea, is I'm going to create energy out here. And so I'm saying my bubble is out here. And you see I put a lot of energy in that. And he stepped off the pressure. It didn't chase him. It didn't follow him. And that's all we're going for right there. So at the end of the day, he wants to do all the things you want him to do. He's just learned that wasn't the answer before. He's learned that there's other things that are the answer because he didn't understand the question. Now that he's understanding the question, he can get on board and say yes and yes and yes. Make sense? What's your first initial impression of what I did with him and how it went?
I think you were comfortable enough to come at him with a lot more energy than I am. So, but that got him, you aren't coming at him, you're coming at his space and not driving him, you're owning the space, which is a different field, not as threatening for him, but still getting him to respect you more.
What do you think about where we kind of ended up with everything?
Good. He has a lot lighter, needs a lot lighter pressure to now than in the round to get to do what you want or move out of your space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. What were your takeaways? What are a couple things that you're like, okay, when I work with him next, I'll do this differently?
Yeah. I'm gonna work on focusing on a point, driving forward. What's the term that you use for it?
Walking on the line.
Walking on the line.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very easy for him to feel like it's about him, and it's like, no, it's not about you. I'm just gonna claim this space. And that will be one of the key ones when you do circle him, is that when he turns and faces up like that, just go own that space until he goes right or left to get him back out there. Because that's him challenging that a little bit before he thinks about kicking or something like that. Otherwise, luckily it's mostly attached to that spot of owning his space there, going towards him, versus the other yields he did really willingly and easily. So I think we got the needle moved. I do think he's going to test it again. But I think if you're ready to correct him, I think that can work out pretty good.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you very much for letting us come out and work with your horse today and being comfortable letting us film everything. And hopefully this helps some people out that are watching. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you guys on the next one.